Calm down. Calm down. We good. Don't worry. Bitcoin's just getting a little bit cheaper. That's okay. All right? Don't start losing your minds. Naturally, you're going to want a little bit of a retrace. But this announcement that we've had from the news in regards to the data that's just been released about the employment market is a little bit of a surprising read. The prospectus was looking for 233,000, an increase in the unemployment claims to marry up to the idea that the labor market is cooling. Even one of the Fed speakers today, Gooseby, said that, yeah, the labor market is cooling. Well, not according to the unemployment claims. A reduction down to 218,000. That's good news for the labor market. Bad news for the likely path of interest rates and solidifying the idea that Jerome Powell was probably forced to cut the interest rates and doing something that he didn't want to do. And the data's now coming out suggesting it. Now, if we're going to start getting all a little bit conspiracy and what have you, are they cooking the data just to spike Trump? It all depends, ladies and gentlemen, but the market doesn't seem like it likes it. But naturally, you do want a little bit of a retrace. Stocks are overvalued. Everything is overvalued right now. This is where we are going to understand if the proof in this rally to the upside is going to sustain itself. We're going to be looking for key areas in Bitcoin that could grab attention. We've just lost what looks like one of the key open interest areas that before was acting as an area of support. Now it looks like it's acting like a wooden chair with 3 legs and it's about to crack. Well, it's already cracked because it's got 3 legs. But what chair has 3 legs? Irrelevant, ladies and gentlemen. Let's break it all down and help you make sense of the madness. So here we go. So, okay, might speak a little bit fast today, but because we got things moving around, we got to take advantage of that bad boy. In front of you is the data that's just been released. GDP came in at 3.8%. That doesn't call interest rates having an impact on the economy now, does it? Again, I just actually believe that all this money that's coming into the US regarding tariffs, and we don't even know where we are with China just yet, and all this infrastructure being built in the US, and of course, all the money that's being invested by tech is, if you look at that, 3.8% on the GDP. That is wild. Unemployment claims coming in at 218,000, core durable goods 0.4%, and durable goods orders month on month 2.9%. Look how the data is cooked. It's not making sense to anyone. 0.4% on core durable goods. Is it because they are anticipating that the actual tariffs themselves are going to have an impact in the future, so they're getting involved and buying everything up now? Naturally, that is going to impact the economy. It's going to show that things are looking good. But with the way that the interest rates are looking right now, Jerome Powell does not have a reason to cut the rates. Let's just quickly refresh this bad boy right here to understand where we are in regards to the Fed itself. So let's get this up. Here we go. So, ratings have now come back down again. Look at this. It's showing 81.2% of a rate cut going towards 3.754% going into this year. And then we've got some guys betting that there could be a possibility that interest rates could actually hold between the 4 and 4.25%. Traders are expecting 43 basis point cut overall this year, but it doesn't look like that could be the case. Going into price action, Bitcoin has broken a key level right now, 111,000, tapping into that 110,850. Quickly going into the order flow to understand where we are. This is the area that we're talking about right now. It effectively just come and tapped into that zone, and this is going to be a critical area for Bitcoin if it loses it. Quickly going over into other aspects of it all. Where is my chart? Here we go. Let's just update this one here. Okay, then, oh my days, it's not even done it. Oh my God, it's not even updating it. This is how bad the market is right now. It's not bad. It's actually quite good, actually. Hold on a sec. Let's just see if we can do this. Yeah, no one, look, everyone's getting liquidated. Look at this. Hardly any open interest coming into play. It's just literally nothing. There's nothing going on right now. People are scared to actually put any liquidity down. Let's just quickly go over and have a look at where we are with the liquidation levels and the heat maps themselves. Here we go. So Bitcoin, let's get the exchanges for everything to understand what we are likely to try and take in. Here we go, 50-minute time frame. Let's have a look at where we are with all the liquidity over there. So we've just seen Bitcoin going and attacking this area. We got this big area down here, 106,000. Yeah, 106,900, 107,000 is the next area that we do see a little bit of liquidity coming into play with regards to Bitcoin. Going over to other asset classes, Solana just said no, thank you. But let me tell you something right now. BlackRock is doing some numbers. 6,350 Ethereum was sold 2 hours ago. It's moved to Coinbase Prime, so you can appreciate that Ethereum is no longer building that bridge and it's actually collapsing that bridge. Here we go. So it's now rolled over and we look like we're going into, I mean, look, man, it's just down. it needs to retrace. I mean, you've got a very significant range down here, guys, with the green vector candle recovery at 3,737. It's still a valid spot. NASDAQ is saying no, thank you. It's just taking the bleed to the downside. Where are we? Stocks are overvalued as per se from Bloomberg, saying stocks set to extend losses with the tech under strain. Quickly going over into the yields market, you can see 2-year yield is up 1%. This is where it gets interesting. 5-year at 1%, 3.72. The 10-year climbing up to 4.179 with a high of nearly 4.2%. And the 30-year getting itchy. Wants to break out this high over here at 4.77. The 10-year bond market taking an absolute bleed to the downside. And you know what, with the data with the euro and gold as well, gold seems to be holding out very well. Euro's just said no thank you, and it's taken a sweep to the downside. I was projecting euro to try and make a little bounce from this zone, but of course the data that's just come out has just thrown it off course. And as I said before, do not underestimate the dollar, ladies and gentlemen. It's on its way, vector candle recovery. I expected dollar to pull back this morning just on the data, because the data was projecting that we were looking for an increase, a very short increase, and the actual previous reading was 231,000. They revised it to 232. Then they gave the projection of 233, and it came in at 218,000. Does it look like we're going to get interest rate cuts? Well, it doesn't look like it, because the expectation of the future of interest rates is higher. That's what this is. This is higher. That means investors expect it to be higher in the future. So they're not going to get involved with bonds until they feel that they can get the rates higher to the point where they can actually sustain interest in the US bonds market. Quickly going over into other asset classes across the board, you've got VIX pumping up, ladies and gentlemen. Now they are starting to get themselves hedgeable. They now want the hedge. Now quickly going over back into cryptocurrency, going into Bitcoin, seeing that Bitcoin is starting to roll over. Go to the higher time frames on Bitcoin just to understand where we are with everything. Here we go. Very strong rejection to the downside. It's the only next logical spot for Bitcoin to end up in the grounds of testing the support of investors. But Solana, this morning on our updates to the Platinum members, we were talking about an area down here on Solana. There it is, $188 a share, a coin, 40 million bid side on Solana. Now, this is what's important. When you see something like this on a coin like this, you've got to understand what's the average order flow for each coin, okay? So Bitcoin, on average, anything between 5 and 10 million, you can be cool with that. That's nothing to get all excited about. But anything above 25, that's where you really want to start paying attention, all right? On Solana, it's usually about 1 million, 3 million, and even at a push, you've got like 10 million, like, wow. But now we've got 40 million sat in the book, okay? So what does this tell you? It tells you that participants are coming in because they understand that everything is overvalued. So this is where you pay most attention, ladies and gentlemen. You don't lose your brains and say, oh my God, everything is crashing and crashing. If you were buying up here, yes, everything is crashing in your eyes and you are losing money right now, or value, okay? But if you're coming to the charts asking yourself, should I start getting involved in anything? Well, now that we've got this idea that the interest rates might not get cut as much as we anticipate, that is naturally going to lead asset classes across the board to go to the downside. But don't lose your mind when you see everything pulling back. Just zoom out. Is it all good? Yes, it is. Okay. Why is everyone calling for a complete crash of cryptocurrency when we look at where we were over here and that wasn't the case? No one was calling for crashes then. Everyone was like, oh, get ready to the upside and what have you. So why at higher prices we're going for a crash, yet at lower prices everything was all good? Doesn't make sense, does it? So when you're looking for price action and saying to yourself, you know what, what's the story across the board? Okay, we've had the bids coming in on Bitcoin, bids on Ethereum. BlackRock's getting rid of loads of Ethereum for some reason, as obviously there's a rotation. Are we going into Bitcoin dominance? Maybe. Here we go. Bitcoin dominance starting to base out. We want to see it start climbing up. We could potentially get back up towards the 60 zone. That will be happy days for Bitcoin holders per se. But Bitcoin is pulling back quite aggressively and it's still fine. I know it sounds like I'm going crazy and like we're all concerned, but it's okay. There's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong at all. Just quickly going over. I mean, we've got good news. Look, Dutch government is considering creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and even though Trump's just completely bypassed the idea of talking about a Bitcoin reserve, maybe at cheaper prices, it's something that they may actually start to consider. But if we are going on the logic of the cyclical behavior that we spoke about last night, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we're in line for a level 2 drop to the downside. That's what this cyclical move looks like. But that's okay. Don't get all crazy about it. I mean, everyone doing it too, has a crash in the title picture, but you're talking about no worries. Well, I got your attention to come in and tell you not to worry because that's the first thing you're coming into the live thinking about. Yeah? How many times? I say it all the time. We focus when price drops. That's what we want. If you only want me to focus when price rises, then I'm leading you to the slaughterhouse because when price rises, they sell it. When price drops, they buy it. Who's buying down here? 40 million. Don't you want to know that information? Or would you just prefer to be the guy that's buying as prices are rising and be the guy that wants to sell up here? $390,000, $220 on Solana. Someone wants to sell at that price point. Let's go over to Bitcoin and break it all down. Here we go. Right. Look, who stepped in? 2.23 million at 110,911. All right. Down here, 1.45 waiting to be swept. You got this cluster down here at 108,000. Then you just had 3 million sold, bought at this point. And then you had 21 million bought at 111,488. That should really grab your attention because everyone's looking at crash. The weak hands are selling. The strong hands are coming in and buying everything up. Okay. That's what we really want to be focusing on, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to waste our time worrying about when Bitcoin's price is going to go up. We've got to focus on when prices are dropping and the duration of the time that they're dropping. Then we're looking for price to stabilize. If we just go and have a look at the high block itself, just quickly come out of this, we can say that in terms of open interest, the only next logical area of support for Bitcoin is this area down here with nearly 800 million in open interest. That is a key area of support. So you're going to ask yourself, do I buy now or do I buy when it comes and tests this point? Where would the next logical spot be? It will be where most participants had an agreement on price. And that usually looks like this. And then when price gets towards that zone itself, that's where we can say to ourselves, okay, then if price has now come to a point where previously it had moved up, then logic says that when price gets to that area, is the idea of value going to get triggered at that point? We only need to go over and have a look at USDT dominance. Dominance is coming up. We've been marking off these levels. You know, I've been marking these levels off. These are the next areas. And you can see that they've coming up towards that 4.71, 4.66. But again, this chart right here, you've got to use it on the grounds of psychology of investors. You can see now there are a lot of investors that have plowed into USDT and they've been in USDT for quite some time. There is an imbalance down here where lots of people sold lots of Bitcoin, and that's naturally led the USDT balance to start marking up. Logic says that history is going to show us that we're going to come back to this point because the same guys that were in USDT right now are looking at Bitcoin waiting for value to get triggered, which means, is it cheap enough for me to step in? And that stepping in is going to be determined based on the guys who are happy to bid Bitcoin. And when they've been bidding Bitcoin aggressively to the downside, that's when you got to watch out and say, hold on a second, are the offers going to come in? Because equally, when they open positions to the downside, as in opening bids, there's going to be offers being given. And look, the offers aren't there. They're not as concentrated like this. We need to start seeing this, right, up here. Because if it's starting to get closer to price, then we can be of the assumption that, yeah, they're going to start rallying to the upside, okay? So don't lose your minds on drops. I mean, look, if we just go over to the NASDAQ itself, NASDAQ has just been dropping down, but stocks are overvalued. And if cryptocurrency is going to do what I think it's going to do, it means that we have got crypto up, NASDAQ down. Right? You can go over to the balance of the BlackRock thing. Here we go, 768,000. It's going up. They're offloading on Ethereum. They're not holding that much Ethereum now. They've just got rid of 25 million. They got rid of a little bit of Bitcoin. But other than that, there's nothing actually worrying about this with regards to the ETF. And there was one other aspect to it. They could be doing some hedging plays. They're shorting Bitcoin on futures, buying it up on spot, okay, as it's going down. That is something that all these hedge fund players are actively doing right now, ladies and gentlemen. So that's something you've got to take into consideration, okay? Right. Hanging upside down Friday. Tina, some time ago, you said that you are a B... Huh? No, just jiu-jitsu. Not Brazilian. The only thing close to alt season we're getting is metals. I mean, alt season itself, ladies and gentlemen, you're getting smacked. I mean, Bitcoin dominance is just, it's still going up, man. And you guys are going to struggle with that altcoin season. I mean, it might not be something you want to hear, but the truth of it is you're going to come to the dominance chart. You're going to look at it and say, okay, what's it doing? It's going up. So if I say Bitcoin altcoin dominance looks like it's in a bit of a pickle, you can't be mad at me. And I'm not going to give you false hope that, oh, wow, look, hold on to your alts. You're just going to get squeezed out. If the guys play Bitcoin dominance and altcoin dominance, what does logic say? You should be in Bitcoin for the guys in crypto, okay? But institutional investors, nah, it's not really anything that they're interested in. They just want Bitcoin. And you can clear as day see that BlackRock and institutional investors do not give two damns about your altcoin season because they just offloaded 6.35K Ethereum. That's a little bit of a problem, okay? So we're all going to hope that all the guys in crypto come in and pick up all that Ethereum to bring it back up. That's what we'd be looking for, okay? Now, moving forward, let's quickly just go and look in the stock market itself to understand where we are. Not that screen. Here we go. So let's go over to the NASDAQ, seeing where we are with it all. So yesterday, we saw a cut in price. This is the weekly volume. You can see it is a little bit low, so that's okay. But the daily volume right now, we can see yesterday's close was relatively all right, but volume was down, but it was just below average itself, so that's not bad. But going into today's market itself, when we get into the open, you can see NASDAQ is trying to pull back ever so slightly. And we've got a couple of lines here. It's just to mark off certain levels. But if I just go into the smaller time frames, here we go. The mood data is coming out. You can see NASDAQ is trading at value area lows. This is very important. I mean, we do have vectors down here, so just be very mindful of that. Other than that, we do have quite a few more speakers coming into play later on, ladies and gentlemen. If I just highlight this, and we just go into it, you can see today, where are we? We've got speaker coming out. Well, Schmidt's been speaking and Williams have been speaking. We have existing home sales coming out at 3 p.m. as well. Bauman's going to be speaking, and then Bart, Logan, and Daly is going to be speaking later on. So we know that we've got some more federal speakers coming out, and they're probably going to change their tone based on the data that's just been released regarding the unemployment market and, of course, the durable goods orders. This right here is unbelievable. Durable goods coming in at 2.9%. That is absolutely wild, in my honest opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so the Brinks is now fully near enough getting into open. Where we at? Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? The top was 124,000. Yeah, the top was 124,000. But you've got to remember, the top being 124,000, all right? You've got to appreciate that, yeah, it's the top until they prepare it again for the next level. You know, that's what you've got to understand. And how far is the top from what? On what aspect? Is this the top? And that's it now. Bitcoin's going to go. How many of you believe Bitcoin's going to actually tap the 100K zone? Be real with me now. How many of you believe Bitcoin's going to tap 100K? You know what? Let's run a little poll. Let's run a poll. 100K Bitcoin. This will be interesting. Yes, no. Here we go. 100K. How many of you believe that that is a time and a spot that Bitcoin is more than likely going to take? When do you think that's going to happen? Well, let's just here we go. So the poll's coming in. Yes, 53% of you say yes. All right, 191 likes, 72 votes in a matter of seconds. Doesn't make sense. The live's been on for nearly 20 minutes. Doesn't make sense. Like the stream. Tino, silver target is $50. Where else could it overshoot to? It all depends on the idea of investors and interest rates. Because right, so let me put it like this. Look, silver going up, nearly hit $50, man. Look at that. Not for nearly, but it's so close towards it. All right, so what you got to understand with silver is this. When times are a little bit concerning, investors will always naturally go over to metals, okay? Now, we know by our little sheet right here, okay, that we're seeing a lot of stocks going into, or should I say investors going into energy-based and medical-based stocks. We don't really see that many defense-based stocks at all, but we're seeing a lot of science-based, medical, and energy stocks. That usually gives me the idea that investors are actively going into defense-based stocks. Defense doesn't mean aerospace and defense. It just means protect your portfolios. Now, if commodities keep on going up, it tells you that investors are concerned about things. We go over to the smart money concept as well. We refresh this up just to understand where we are with this, because we know that retail is kind of optimistic and that we know that smart money is somewhat neutral in all of it. And you can see here that as asset prices are going down, smart money line is starting to come up. So if we just bring this a little bit closer, you can see here, smart money starting to edge upwards. Retail at an extreme of optimism, starting to pull back right now. So we could then be on the assumption that hedge traders are going to keep on going into commodities. So that means silver and that means gold going up. What's gold doing? See, gold's starting to try and hold out, building the positions, preparing for the hedge. Go over to oil. What's oil doing? Where we at with oil? Oil starting to pull back, but it has been locking in some very interesting gains over the last couple of days. Dollar dominance seems to be singing nicely. All right. Natural gas is doing great. We expect gas to start coming back up to the $3 region itself. And this is what's going to be happening, ladies and gentlemen. They're all going to be going into commodities. So they're going to be coming out of asset classes like Bitcoin or the NASDAQ itself. I mean, look, let's just go over to dollar yen for a second. Hold on. Where are we at with dollar yen? I need to see that. Here we go. Dollar yen's climbing up, getting very close, very, very close. And I know Japan's going to be eyeing this up. They're going to be watching this at the 150 zone. If dollar yen does surpass 150, then that's where things get a little bit interesting for the Bank of Japan in reference to the yen itself. The yen is just taking a nosedive. They've come back into our vector zone we marked off. Now we're looking for the next spot right here, which tells me dollar dominance is something that's going to be happening. Euro is going to be coming down. Dollar's going to be going up. The bonds are going to be going down because participants are going to want interest in cash. All right. So that's what we've got to be taking into consideration, ladies and gentlemen. The VIX is up 2.68%, but usually when the VIX is up so much, there's usually a little bit of a retrace, ladies and gentlemen, and that's all going to be revealed very shortly as the New York session opens, because there will be a lot of participants that are looking to cover their shorts because they have been running shorts for quite some time and the market is dropping. But you look at the market dropping like this, you say to yourself, well, how long can it go? Well, you've got yourself a couple of waves here. You've got one wave right there. You've got another wave right here. The logic says that we've now had the third wave, so we could naturally anticipate another wave retrace to then start working its way back down to this key area. This area here is magnificent. It needs to get into that area, and that would be a perfect dip buying opportunity, in my opinion. Why? Because the yields would have been forced up quite aggressively, and when the yields get forced up, that forces traders to then start taking their valuable dollars, go over to the bonds market, lock in some yields, the bonds start to move up, and then investors see the bond market rising, the yields are going down, the stock market starts to climb back up again, the volatility index ends up taking a reversal back down again, they've hedged themselves, and then it's all systems go and the process repeats itself. That's really how it works. Going into Nvidia, that thing's gapping down towards the open. Tesla, gapping down. Microsoft, not really doing too much there. Google, gapping down. It's getting ready to close this gap over here. Apple holding out. I mean, stock bond ratio says that stocks are overvalued, you know, and you should be welcoming this. You should be welcoming this, ladies and gentlemen. There you go, 450 votes, man. What the hell is that? You all expect Bitcoin to go to him. Alts for shorting. It's really this easy. Way too much liquidity at 120K for Bitcoin. Will not hit 100K till after upside. The thing is, though, I mean, look, silver, my friend, beyond $50, silver, I'd say silver will consolidate between $40 and $50 after it hits $50. All right? Because then we're going to need to know where we are with the interest rates. Because with this data that's just come out right now, that is kind of stalling the idea of interest rate cuts. All right? It really is. 218,000 on unemployment claims. Their focus is the labor market. If the labor market is slowing, they're going to cut the rates. If it's not slowing, they're not going to cut the rates. And that 218,000 and your GDP expanding 3.8%. Are you mad? The Fed would be mad to cut the rates. So then that means they're going to then transition back over to what? Inflation. So this is what I mean. It's an absolute wild game right now. It's an absolute wild game. I look like a mob enforcer. Well, we've got to filter money some way. Anyways, right advice, but wrong time. It's like all the lessons kick in at the top of the market. That's when everybody wants to buy and hold. Coincidentally, that's when all channels start telling to. You know what? It's all about your preference. Me, as a trader, my goal is to exploit movement. There are a lot of you that are trying to work out, is now a time to buy for spot, or is now a time to buy on leverage to exploit a $1,000 move in Bitcoin? Happy days. And what you've got to understand is this. When you're trying to navigate the idea of Bitcoin in the long term, yes, we are in the idea of, you know, internet money, and it's great news and what have you. But Bitcoin right now is stuck at these levels, okay? All it takes is one 1 minute candle to pump up, and now we're in the bull run. And then you get a 30-second candle dropping down. It's a market crash. What you've got to understand is this. Inside of Bitcoin, right? Forget its purpose, because the purpose of Bitcoin It's not there anymore. It really isn't. Now, Bitcoin is a risk on, risk off asset. It's like every other asset class out there. It's just a little bit more expensive, all right? But that was before everyone in Wall Street stepped in. But now you've got Bitcoin at the hands and at the realm of these big boys, all right? There's your supply right there. It's all here, right? And it's whatever the participants holding these ETFs think. And that's the problem. Altcoin dominance, Bitcoin dominance, it's irrelevant because we see the supply is stuck here. And the problem with this is this. The ETF gives participants the opportunity to really exploit Bitcoin. They're going to buy it on the ETF, they're going to short it on the futures, and then they're going to reverse. They're going to sell on the ETF, go long on the futures, and they're going to play that game, all right? And that's the problem we've got with Bitcoin. People are coming into cryptocurrency or stealing cryptocurrency with the belief it's got to stick to this, it's got to stick to that. No, it doesn't. Because you've got too many participants with big cash that can maneuver Bitcoin. I mean, come on, man. When was the last time, right? When was the last time anyone got upset about BlackRock getting rid of Ethereum? All right? People in crypto see that now and think, 6.35K getting dumped into Coinbase Prime. Now, it's all perspective. You might look at that and think, oh, yeah, man, Ethereum is this supply coming in. I can buy some more. But then retail's going to look at that and think, oh, my God. But then they're going to be wanting to see who's going to be picking that up. So naturally, they're seeking liquidity. That liquidity is going to get pushed out to the market. And then people are going to start buying and everyone's going to start selling. It's going to create this madness. So for me, ladies and gentlemen, Bitcoin has to come down to go up, whether you like it or not. But I don't tell you what you want to hear. I expect Bitcoin to come back up to this vector candle, all right? What we need to do is to start collecting some orders because the same reason these guys were buying Bitcoin here ended up offering higher. Well, they're buying Bitcoin here, offered higher. They're buying Bitcoin here. Well, wait until we get towards this point. And if we come back to this point right here, happy days. We've got ourselves an opportunity. Buy it. Buy from here, 107,000, goes up to 112. Awesome. You made a $5,000 move on Bitcoin. What's wrong with that? If you're buying Bitcoin now for the future, as in, I'm never going to sell, you're going to experience this madness. You know? Falcon Punch, mad love and respect for that, bro. Mad love and respect. Get your reds away. Viking. Mad love to you, man. After 50, silver gold will probably start coming down like Bitcoin versus NASDAQ. Bitcoin starting. I'm getting a phone call. Bear with me a second, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Dutch. My smile is scary. I know it's scary. How can I help you? I am live, yes. So he calls me to tell me my smile is scary. Is my smile scary? Interesting. Interesting. Market open. All right then, cool. Bitcoin just had a Wyckoff spring on the 1 hour. Yeah, that was Steve. Yes, that was Steve, ladies and gentlemen. That was Steve. BlackRock is not only managing for retail and some institutions, so ETFs are mostly retail movement. Well, it's institutions and retail. That's the thing, all right? But you can appreciate that the problem is with such big balances right now, okay, in the ETF, you've got the participants that want to play the Bitcoin ETF, all right? Those participants that are playing the ETF also have the ability to diversify their portfolios. So that means they will either go short on the futures of Bitcoin and then they'll be able to buy up on Bitcoin ETF. They're going to be benefiting either way. A, because they're getting Bitcoin ETF on the cheap, and B, they're earning money on the short. All right. So it all depends on their actual portfolio goals and what they're trying to achieve. But the problem in crypto is people just buy Bitcoin and hope for the best. They go and scour news announcements like this, you know, and it's like, woo, we're going to be creating a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And then 2.5 years down the line, I mean, look, the audit for the US Bitcoin strategic reserve is 170 days overdue. So just because you see that, Bitcoin burps for 3 minutes and then comes back down again. It's just, you might think that I'm talking negative. I'm not. I'm actually giving you guys insight into not buying when Bitcoin's rising. You buy it when it's when it's dropping down. That's what you do. When it drops, you buy. Just look. Someone's just bought 2.23 million. He believes that that's the time of place that he's going to start buying Bitcoin. And then we go up here. We could see there's a little order there. 2.9 million, whatever it was. 5 million, 1.7, 7 million right there. 3 million. So all these participants that may have been buying Bitcoin on the move to the downside are going to look to offer out because people are coming into crypto that, oh yeah, man, look, it's at a discount. I'll start buying at this point. So those guys are going to get sold to. And then when those guys have got profits and they're all the way up here, they'll be scratching their bald head thinking, well, why is price going to start coming down? I thought it was rallying up. And it's just because the guys up here are no longer wanting to offer price. They want it cheaper. Capiche? Don't worry about it, Mike, man. I had a feeling that you'd call me. Don't worry. Do the level 3 rises, falls always complete, or do they sometimes stop at a second rise drop before changing direction? The logic of the cycle is this, ladies and gentlemen. W formation, rise, retrace level 1, retrace level 2, retrace level 3, peak formation, drop level 1, drop level 2, drop level 3, peak formation. We are right now here with Bitcoin. That's where we are. Okay? It's not always going to look like that. No way. It's variation, okay? So we then take that logic and say, okay, then structurally, we've got this, all right? Even though this point right here is the high, the logic says that if Bitcoin cannot succeed above this point, we're only looking for bids. That means prices to come down. That's all we're looking for. We are only looking for that region, right? So if we are in this area here, the logic says that we've got ourselves level 1. This is a level 1 zone. And what starts at level 2 is the breakout. The breakout will be confirmed at breaking this low. Then once we break this level and it closes and it's a strong breakout, then the idea is that Bitcoin is going to come down, consolidate inside of here. And if this consolidation isn't enough for them, they will then consolidate and then break out the next level and mark Bitcoin to the downside from there. That's where we then see a big vector candle recovery point right here, which logically says that the breakout of a level 2 zone would effectively start the level 3 accumulation to start building positions to then start seeing Bitcoin come back up again. So they will leave vectors behind. All right, red vector here, red vector there. So one here, for example, you might have a vector candle here, and then they start consolidating and then lifting price. Just go and have a look at a previous rally. Here we go. So look at this. You've got a little structure to the upside, right? So you got M formation up there, drop level 1, drop level 2 in principle, then drop level 3, and then it sweeps and then starts making the move. Just look at the chart. You've got vector zones here, vector zone 1, vector zone 2, but they recovered that little bit. All right. And then inside of these candlesticks, there's probably more vectors that haven't been recovered on the smaller time frames. And then you see this big commitment down here. And then Bitcoin starts to climb back up. First vector candle above the 50 EMA on the 1 hour or the daily or whatever strategy you decide to use it for. And then you just look left and say, okay, the guys over here that were buying are now looking to sell. The market is rallying. All-time high is the goal. Okay, cool. And that's what they do. And that's always the spot that they actually reverse from. Right? So if by that logic, we're here, anticipate level 2 drop. If it doesn't happen, then you've got yourself valid support by the logic of open interest, which has been lost. So the next spot is 110,900. That would be the next spot for Bitcoin. Capiche? Happy days. Even Tina, no WFT. What? What am I looking at? Bitcoin did this same movement around 10K. Those of you who don't know. How do you get the membership? It has to select you. No, you do. Yeah, it just randomly selects you. When checking the order book, are you only viewing the perps or Binance, or is it aggregated of all exchanges? It's all perps on all exchanges. Okay. I'm not interested in spot volume. The reason I'm not interested in spot volume because futures volume counts for more commitment from traders. Right? Because they're borrowing leverage, right? And that's where you get the interest. I mean, if we were getting spot buy orders on volume, spot orders here, okay, at 715 million, then that's going to change Bitcoin's pricing behavior massively. Tino, if Solana have a vector candle one day on 180 and then a vector on 179 on the 4th hour, is that meant to be support and jump from it and just trade some of it? So it's not a silly question. I don't understand what you mean. Solana vector candle on one day on 180. Go and have a look at Solana vector candle on 180. Solana vector candle 180. All right, let me just break it down to you like this then, okay? So Solana, if we just, what the hell? All right, when you're looking for price to validate the idea of interest at specific levels, all you need to do is just take off these vector blocks, okay? Highlight the vector block that is close by. Now Solana's breaking into that point. Logic says that if the guys that were bidding or offering at this point right here, okay, those guys are going to get encouraged to try and offer higher from this point. So that means bids have been coming in. So they're going to then find support to then reverse back up again, right? If it's not that spot, it's this spot here. You could also have the midpoint. Those are your 3 levels that you've got to monitor. If it invalidates all 3, you work to the next zone. So what's the next zone? The next zone would be this green vector candle region right here, okay? And the reason why we use these blocks is because it's the point in the chart where price had made a reversal from. Okay, it moved away from it. So the market's memory is going to come into play and get triggered at that point again. Okay, so the idea is that, okay, cool. Drops, reverses from there? No. Okay, then. Drops, reverses from here? No. Okay, then. And what about here? Drops, sweeps, and then reverses, comes back into play, consolidates, starts marking all the way back up again because the market's memory got triggered because the guys that were buying here or offering here start to offer over here because there was an agreement that they were able to buy Solana on the cheap and then offer to the upside again based on people's participation. See, they offered out, they brought it all the way back down again. That's short-term mentality in Bitcoin. That's no good for us. All right. We need long-term. We need that when prices go up, they offer out and then they bring it back down again. That's the problem with the book because it's filling up with bids and this commitment to the bid side. So that's something you've got to take into consideration, ladies and gentlemen. What's this indicator that shows the vectors? Right. For anybody new, go to the Traders Reality website, the homepage. Everything you need is on that. Go there and there is a PDF. Just watch the 2 videos that are on the website. Okay. Just go watch those and it will show you everything that you need to know about this indicator. It's not an indicator. It's just a representation of price. It's just basic colored candles that represent activity and moving averages. Simple as. It's just how you translate it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Tino, $17 billion worth of Bitcoin options expire tomorrow with the max pain level 110K. Well, ladies and gentlemen, ironically enough, that is where our open interest sits at 799 million. So, I mean, options, 17 billion, man. Why would anyone be paying attention to the spot market? You know, that makes sense. Okay, then. Cool. So, with that being said, any other questions? I use vectors, but I don't use the MAs. Graph too crowded for me, but sessions and candles are the best. Perfect. I don't even like to have the moving averages on mine. I really don't. But there is strategies within them. People need them when you're starting out with the hybrid system. Just one strategy alone, which is the first vector above the 50 EMA. I challenge anyone to go back and look at the first vector candle that appears above the 50 EMA on the 1 hour or the 5 hour, whatever chart you want. First green or blue vector. There's an example there. And then you can go across here. You've got other ones right here. I know it looks like I'm cherry picking here. Okay. But just go and have a look at that strategy in itself. Go and have a look. And it always starts with a vector candle recovery point. So you got that zone right there. And there's the first vector from all that consolidation. Up she goes. But again, it's how long, you know, you sit and spend time trying to identify these things, you know? Talk about Circle. Yes, actually. Let's talk about Circle. Let's go over and have a look at Circle. Let's have a look at where we are with Circle. Ooh, we got a little bit of a corrective move on Circle. Might be due in for another buy. Wait there, bullish. 61, okay, that's pulling back a little bit. I'll update you guys with that position later on. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, we're expecting this behavior. Come on, man. We are expecting it. Oh, Bitcoin's starting to roll over, ladies and gentlemen. Let's quickly have a look at the lower time frames. What's it doing? NASDAQ, what are you doing? Oh, I'm missing the windows. I'm missing the windows. Never mind. That's just dead. That is horrible. Tina, if you don't have Exo chart, what else will confirm the direction? It's not direction. You don't look for direction. It's not direction. You're looking for intention. You're looking for the desire to move from one spot to the next. And that spot, what does it identify as? Does it identify as stopping volume candle? Does it identify as delta? Does it identify as the bid and the offers? What is it that you're looking at? Okay. And when you can understand the bigger picture of things and what's going on, then you can say, okay, the overall prospectus says that the stock market is overvalued. So whenever I see a reversal to the upside, I know it might be short-lived. All right. So just, you know, it's all down to preference, really, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. What's going on, Brandon? How you doing, bro? All right, M. Tino, Tony, Bitcoin up or down? Well, it looks like Bitcoin's going down, isn't it? So Just don't go short at these levels. It's a little bit of a tricky zone. Don't never short at the lows. You don't do that. You short at the highs. All right. So you wait for retraces, ladies and gentlemen. You know. Anyways, you know, didn't know Top G went live. Nice. All right then. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, check out the Traders Reality website. Everything is starting to move a little bit crazy. Let's see what we can exploit today. Just be careful. All right. And I'll be tuning into you.